New Japan Strong women's title, the title made for Mercedes Moné, as we know. Even even Meltzer reported that officially this week, which I found was very funny. And it was actually the funniest part to me was like how some people acted shocked that this belt was made for her, and I'm like, what? Why? They didn't need it otherwise. Um, how did you overall like the tournament?
It was good. I think every match pretty much over delivered. I mean, I had high expectations for Mercedes versus Stephanie because they're both great, and even then, I think they blew me away.
Mm.
And I mean, Kogo was the most motivated I've seen her since the one high speed title match last year. So I mean, even she brought it. So yeah, everyone kind of over delivered.
Yeah, so let's start obviously with Mercedes versus Stephanie Vaquer. A lot of people learned who Stephanie was on this show. I remember when it was announced, people were like, who? And I think I pointed everyone to the match with Sayori New from Ice
Hmm.
Ribbon last year as kind of the one to watch. She also had a pretty good match in CMLL earlier this year. I think it was against I don't remember her name. So good segment there. But it was pretty good. But I pointed to that Sayori New match because I felt like that was the match that kind of showed her full potential in terms of being a heel in the Joshi scene, and that's that was the role she was going to play in this match against Mercedes Monet because I think she's more of a baby face at CMLL from what I've seen. Um, but the reaction to Mercedes Monet obviously is the part we should talk about first. Um, you said, and half jokingly, half not, that like she has like that Nagayo reaction in terms of like the whole rest of the New Japan show Resurgence was pretty. As someone who watched the whole thing, it was like, yeah, people had good pops. Like Tony Storm got a pretty decent pop because obviously she wasn't scheduled to be on the show. Um, Okada obviously got a great pop, but there was no pop louder than Mercedes Monet's. Did that surprise you in any way, or is it just like, man, this is like the biggest star in the world?
I was kind of surprised because she didn't get a reaction that good even last time for New
Yeah,
Japan, which was her comeback match.
right.
This time, like they were losing their minds for her. Like I don't know if this is just a better crowd or what it was, but they were legitimately going crazy for everything she did. Like she could have stood there for 5 minutes, and I don't think it would have stopped cheering, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, like it's interesting to me how much has changed since that first match. It just feels like obviously she's always been a big star, but it almost feels like she's somehow gotten bigger. And it's funnier because people are always like, "Oh, she's not in WWE, she's not in AEW." Doesn't matter. It's never gonna matter. Like she can be in front of 2,000 people, 5,000 people, 1,500 people. She's always going to be the biggest star in the room, and that's what matters the most. And I think by the end of her match with Stephanie Vaquer, both of them walked out winners. I thought Stephanie had maybe the best possible showing she could have had in this match.
Yeah, I mean she was fantastic. Like she met Mercedes money at her level, and that's a very high level for anybody. But Stephanie was right up there, wrestling at a kind of similar level, and really kind of showcased everything she can do because it wasn't just the typical, lucha stuff that people probably
Mm,
expect. She was a very good all around wrestler in that match, and I
mm.
mean, if I was a promoter on the Indies, I would be like, get this woman on my show now because she's gonna have that kind of match with everybody. Like she is so consistent and so versatile. And
Yeah.
I think she really showed it against Mercedes.
She feels like someone who could break through at any time, especially after this match. If she wanted, I'm not saying to leave CMLL, but get more opportunities pretty much anywhere, she could and she should. Um, it's just like they were so fluent with one another. Like I didn't expect their chemistry to be that good right off the bat. It almost felt as if they've been wrestling for like years against each other. Like they have more chemistry than like Sasha had with Charlotte. And I say Sasha because like, they wrestled a million times legitimately. And what's funny is towards the end of those feuds, I think the matches got worse and worse rather than better and better. But again, to the point of Stephanie, they just were seamless in there. And I think it's just a credit to both of them. Obviously, Mercedes has been training in the lucha style for a while now, which is something I'm sure that's probably why Stephanie was the perfect choice for this first match, so she could kind of show a little bit of that. But at the same time, like you said, that she being Vaquer was able to show all sides of what she's about and play that heel that I think would be a big time player in really any promotion.
Yeah, and I mean on that, like Mercedes, she's like she's a student of the game. I think she could wrestle just about any style given enough time to prepare. Like she really she's interested in learning all of these different styles. I mean, even since she's come back, she's had what, 5 matches, 4 matches. One was a high speed match, one was a
Mm.
standard main event match with Kyrie, one was letting Mayu Iwatani absolutely beat the brakes off of her, and then you had this lucha style, like lucha influenced match.
Mm.
She, like Mercedes, is willing and able to wrestle just about any style her opponent can. And I
Yeah.
think that's really an underrated aspect of her, is that she is always able to work to her opponent and is going to make sure that they and their strengths are accentuated as much as possible. I think we've seen that basically her entire run post WWE.
And of course, what we were going to see in the main event had they been able to complete it to, and I thought they did a good job before Mercedes, of course, got hurt. But I think we were going to see that other style, right? Of like the David versus Goliath style, something that she wrestled a lot while she was in WWE against, bigger opponents. And she's just always so good at working with um, those who are powerful. And I mean, we'll talk about it in a few minutes, but seeing that she specifically had all these different matches again, like in all these different scenarios, it's very obvious this was always her goal when she left. And I'll talk about it here. Her re-signing with New Japan should not come as a sorry, specifically Bushi Road. This shouldn't come as a shock to anyone. I mean, you and me have been talking about forever. I said it's not really a it to me it was always inevitable. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when that would be reported, because she has so much still to do. And we talked about it by the end of this, like she's getting that Tokyo Dome match. That is maybe amongst the top priorities for her, and she's not leaving until she gets that.
Yeah, I mean, you watch the vlog she put up
Yeah.
on her YouTube, and it's like this woman wants a Tokyo Dome match. Like, I've been pretty consistent on Stardom Quest as well. I wasn't sure if she would stay the entire time with Bushi Road or if she'd go and do her other projects. And
Sure.
she wants to wrestle Aja Kong, and obviously that can happen in Stardom, given Rossi and Aja's history and all that. So I thought maybe she'd kind of freelance for a little bit. But I always knew she would come back around to New Japan Stardom, because yeah, she wants that Wrestle Kingdom match. Like, everything she has ever said indicates that she's not kind of happy, I guess, until she gets that match.
Yeah, and what I've also learned is maybe she didn't want those TJPW matches as much as we thought, seeing me Yamash's facing Sawyer Wreck at Summer Sun Princess. But you know what? I'll complain about that another time. I'm not doing that today. I think the Aja Kong match is still in play, even if she's under a Bushiroad contract. If she, came to an agreement with them, like, hey, there's this special show. I'm going to go wrestle Aja Kong on it. Do you care? They probably don't have any power to say no. Anyways, but uh and nor would they say no to her. I don't think I think she's in a spot where she holds all the cards, kind of like a certain someone in another company, where it's like, yeah, you're kind of our main push to the US, not even as the women's division. She's their new main star for everything. That's why she was main eventing this show. I think they learned hardcore at Battle in the Valley. She should have main evented that show. Uh, they had the better match. And I don't know. I think Bushiroad has learned very quickly that her star power is bigger than maybe anyone fully understood at one point. At least that's how I feel about it. Those New Japan World subscriptions probably helped them too. But let's get to the next match. Willow Nightingale defeating Momo Kogo. I thought, along with that high speed match, this was the best singles performance I've seen from Momo Kogo.
Yeah, I mean, it's up there with as I mentioned earlier, the one Azumi match.
Yeah.
that was kind of a real coming out party for Kogo. I remember after that, people were buzzing about her, only
Hmm.
for kind of
And she
Stardom to
became
push
Waka.
her. Yes, they pushed her back down the card. But we know she can do this, and she's just never really had the reason, I guess. But this was definitely up there with that high speed title match of her seeing an opportunity and really going for it.
Hmm.
And yeah, she was fantastic. I thought she played off of Willow really well. And I'm somebody who on Willow was always kind of, it's when she gets the in ring down that she's
Yeah.
undeniable. And I didn't think she had this gear to her. She was mauling that poor girl. And I would love to see more of this from Willow, although I understand her bag is being a baby face.
Yeah.
But she's a fantastic, like, powerhouse dominant player in a match. And Kogo really played off that very well.
I thought the most interesting part is how by the end of this match you had the fans who may have never seen Momo Kogo wrestle in their lives. That's who they were cheering for over Willow. And I think that plays to what you said of how Willow played up that role so well as kind of the mauling beast.
Mm,
And it's interesting because Willow had that match with Athena obviously earlier this year in Ring of Honor, and that was the first match that I had seen from Willow. And I was like, all right, so it's there. Like the in ring is there. Obviously Athena has been fantastic, so like you had to wait and see against maybe another bigger opponent, or another interesting opponent, I should say, because every other match she's pretty much had since then are squashes. And this might have been that match that just like, oh, okay, there is that full ability for Willow. And I just think it's funny. Obviously, it wasn't on purpose, but it took the third major company to book Willow to give her a title. Tony Khan, buddy, you missed the boat like 3 different times. She could have beat Jade. She could have beat Athena. She could have beat Jade again. Instead, she beat Mercedes Monet. Of course, we'll get to that in a second. But do you think Momo Kogo will be like if New if New Japan wants someone from Stardom, they'll just keep sending her at this point?
I mean, out of everybody, she's probably the best one. She speaks English, which I think is a big thing. And the other English speakers are Mina and Waka.
Should send
And
Mariah.
that too, yeah. I mean, she'd be pretty beast. She
No,
might
there.
get poached though. We're not
Yeah,
letting her go.
yeah. I was gonna say there's a running joke that I have of you don't actually want her to be seen by
Yes.
the
No.
the U.S.
God.
eyes because then they'll want her because she's
Yeah.
obviously checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah. We keep Mariah to ourselves for a little while.
I
But
don't
yeah,
think we
no.
want them to see Mina at this point either, though.
Oh God, no! Please don't. She slays too much. But yeah, Momo Kogo, she's an easy one because she speaks English and she can lose, whereas
Mhm.
the other English speakers are kind of being pushed. Even Waka is being pushed now, so you can't fully kind of send her over and be flexible. Whereas Momo Kogo gets beaten like a drum in Stardom. It doesn't really matter if she loses another match to Willow or whoever.
That's very true. That's very true. That's a very good point. But let's get to the final here. It was, of course, Mercedes Moné going head to head with Willow Nightingale. The history behind this match, obviously, two African American women main eventing a New Japan pay per view or show, not even just a pay per view, but a show is a big deal. And this was maybe the loudest reaction. Like the start of this match is the loudest reaction I've heard in a New Japan ring in forever. Like it doesn't matter if it was US, New Japan, you know, in Japan. Like it was such a loud reaction. You felt the star power of Mercedes, I think just that much more. And while it's a shame that, she got hurt and likely hurt her ankle in one way, shape, or form, um, it almost doesn't matter because the moment and the match that they were able to put together before the injury were both so good that it all was able to work out. And of course, the result, because I think a lot of people, even though this was supposed to be Mercedes' win, a lot of people were happy to see Willow in that spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Mercedes, it was like, okay, well, we can probably have her win it again. I think especially the New Japan fan base, they're very used to that kind of thing. So they
Sure.
aren't overreact to Willow winning, even if that was the original plan, because in their minds it's like, oh well, they're going to run that back because New Japan has kind of conditioned them to that style of booking. So that's why I think nobody really panicked. But I do think people just in general were happy that Willow won because she's an AEW wrestler, or AEW and Ring of Honor, and her winning the belt maybe to a lot of people was like, oh, we're going to see more of her on AEW Ring of Honor shows. Maybe we're going to see her on Forbidden Door doing something cool. So I think people were just happy for that kind of stuff. But even then, I mean, I think after her showing in this tournament, I don't think anybody would have been disappointed even if she had won and had been planned to win.
Yeah, well, now people get to see Willow against an AEW wrestler at Forbidden Door. So congratulations. I thought the way Mercedes sold the pounce was like it couldn't have been more perfect. She got shot out of a cannon. And that's the one thing about Mercedes that's like always been so good. And she did her best to finish the match too. Which again, a pro's pro, despite not being able to use that leg at all. But the way she sold that pounce, I thought was just phenomenal. She flew through the air. Now with Willow winning here, I hope that they don't just wait to have her defend the belt like once or twice. I guess that's the good part about Ring of Honor and New Japan, right? Like Tony works with them. Like they've had multiple defenses of like Zack Sabre Jr.'s title on there that I can't think of the name of. They've had Shibata obviously as champion there, so I think that's probably where we'll see most of the defenses for this belt until Mercedes walks back in the door. But now they have a surefire main event match for whenever she's ready.
Yeah, I mean, you can easily go back to it and have Mercedes win if that's what you want to do. Because yeah, I mean, nobody's gonna beat Willow for it in the next 2 or 3 months because I don't think Mercedes will be gone for that much longer than what, August maybe.
Yeah, I